Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and today spawning in the northeast corner of the map, playing in blue, we've got beastyqt, playing as the Delhi Sultanate, and his opponent in the south, playing in pink, we've got, I don't know what this says, I think it's Doraemon, something like that on Google Translate. Either way, it's the Japanese, playing in pink, and we're on Dry Arabia, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be the Japanese versus the Delhi Sultanate. And I'm excited for this one, because both civilizations do have a chance to be very aggressive. Well, you see the Delhi Sultanate often have a very extended feudal age, or a very strong feudal age, looking to get those sacred sites. It's something that actually a lot of the opponents to the Delhi need to try and stop, or at least limit. You don't want to let the Delhi get those sacred sites too early and accumulate that gold. Now the Japanese, on the other hand, they got a couple of options, a couple of strategies up their sleeves. Quite flexible civilizations in many ways, and they do often have a really nice push in terms of massive units, usually around the 12-15 minute mark, obviously depending on the strategy that they opt to choose from. Plenty of options, things like 2 town centers, pretty viable for the Japanese for a long time, and actually more recently they do seem to have a bit of a power spike in that castle age, especially when they start getting the Yorishiro out from the floating gate landmark, which is, I mean, ultimately, that's the landmark we're going to see for the Japanese. And yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting one to see how well the Japanese are able to deny the sacred sites from the Delhi, and whether the Delhi can punish the Japanese for being a bit too greedy at times if they end up doing so. Beastie rocking the blue in the north, it means he can actually get a lot of sheep early on, because the Delhi, they don't need that sheep straight away. They can rely on the berries, of course, being able to gather food from berries a little bit faster than most other civilizations, and also buffering those berry bushes. They get an extra 50 food per berry patch when under the influence of the mill. The mosque working hard, getting efficient production, which is something that actually really is quite nice for the Delhi. Something that helps them massively in the feudal age, meaning that he can pump out a lot more units a lot quicker when he does have scholars as garrison inside production buildings. I'd be quite interested to see actually the Japanese options in terms of how they face up against the Ghazi Raider, which is very commonly a unit chosen for the Delhi. You don't really see Delhi without Ghazi Raiders. A very strong unit. And I feel like often we do see, for most other civilizations, we can often see the spearman line of units, but the Honorable Geisha is something to be considered. Obviously a very unique unit for the Japanese, very high mobility in terms of an infantry unit at least, and I feel like they can scale pretty well in melee type battles. And I'm kind of expecting to see a lot more Honorable Geisha in this matchup in particular, because you can often go for spearmen, but it feels like Honorable Geisha do a lot better in terms of trading and catching up with those cavalry that spearmen just can't often do. It's going to be the Tower of Victory here for Beastie and the Delhi Sultanate, a landmark that we're seeing a lot more commonly for the Delhi, as they do pressurize a lot more in the feudal age these days. And we shall see if there's going to be going for archers on alongside those Ghazi Raiders. It's commonly the army composition of choice for the Delhi, and Delhi do like doing Delhi things. They like to be the tempo aggressors, they like to be able to set the pace for the games. Now, speaking about setting the pace, you guys have been setting the pace massively with the support on YouTube and Twitch. I really appreciate you guys. Absolutely phenomenal, and really enjoying Age of Empires 4 at the moment. I have been casting a couple of other games, namely Zero Space and a bit of Stormgate as well. So I've been putting those on separate YouTube channels. So if that's something that actually interests you, maybe it's worth checking out. If you go to the channel homepage, scroll to the bottom, you see my other YouTube channels that I have got going at the moment. But of course, this one's going to be purely on Age of Empires 4. And so if Age of Empires 4 is your jam and you don't want to see anything else, well, don't worry, I've got you covered. You won't be seeing anything else on this channel anyway at the moment. We do see the feudal age coming in for the Japanese. Went up with the Kura Storehouse, no real surprises there. It's got to be the landmark. Shinobi just don't really offer that much in this matchup in particular. But also, on a land map, you're not going to generally see too many instances of going for Shinobi. Although, I mean, they could have done something against the Delhi army that's going to be coming in pretty quickly. Bridge a gap between what's probably going to be a faster military aggression from the Delhi than it is from the Japanese. But, the Kura Storehouse is just such a strong landmark. You can't afford not to get it. It makes food so strong for the Japanese, especially when you scale it nicely with the Daimyo Manor and then Daimyo Palace upgrade from the town center. Makes the farming very efficient and a very nice source of food for the Japanese, and it's part of the reason why they do so well at that sort of 12-15 minute mark about pumping out those military units. Now, also said I didn't actually know who this player was. I believe it could potentially be Louis, so it's a funny old world there in Twitch chat. I think you might be right about it being Louis. Opening up with a stable, actually, the Japanese. Interesting, interesting. So he's going to go for some horsemen just to bridge that gap before he can actually get any other units on the field. It's an interesting choice because the Ghazi Raider is, I mean, in many ways, it's just better, right? It's got an extra HP. It's got an extra additional 3 attack, both against melee and ranged as well. So it's got a sort of plus 12 bonus damage against range. And when we compare that to the horseman, so you pop out now, 125 HP instead of the 140, and only 9 spear damage. Just going a little bit too close for comfort underneath that town centre, which something to consider as well. They have a slightly less ranged armour, the Ghazi Raiders, plus... Oh no, it's actually the same. That's fine. It's actually the same. But that might change, especially when Iron Undermesh is coming in for Beastie. I do like the wars from the Japanese, by the way, because the Delhi, they always have this tendency to be very aggressive with the cavalry. And this is actually going to achieve a lot, by the way, on the right side. It's going to protect the deer camp. But also, if he walls up here towards the town centre somewhat, maybe be able to protect this gold somewhat as well. But he's not going to be able to do that anytime soon with these 3 Ghazi Raiders roaming around. 2 horsemen going to just poke and prod for now. Just buy some time. Looking to get a bit of stone. I love the fact that he's using the Cura storehouse as a drop-off point for the stone outcropping, by the way. That's kind of cool. Obviously, there's still a bit of walking distance in there, but it saves a bit of wood, which he has a decent amount of already. Not committing to that mining camp just yet. A couple of Ghazi, well, 1 Ghazi Raider and a scout going a bit too close to the town centre. No villagers garrisoning inside, and it's something that actually we see a lot these days. Villagers not opting to garrison inside town centres. They'd rather keep them working. Understandably so when you want their eco running. About to harass the stone villagers once again. Does have a couple of horsemen, so should be able to hold on for a little while, but can't take a straight-up fight just yet. And this tempo aggression from the Delhi just shows you how strong they could be here. Beastie losing, or Beastie killing a villager, rather. Louis, unfortunately, isn't able to get that out there in time. And the first blood has been drawn for the Delhi, opting for a archery range behind this. And those archery ranges units are going to definitely benefit from the Tower Victory. An additional 20% attack speed because of that landmark. Does have a double blacksmith as well, so getting those all-important blacksmith upgrades for free, making them trade a little bit better. Now once he does get Iron Undermesh, I think that might be another opportunity for Beastie then to dive a little bit more comfortably underneath the town centre, but by that time, it feels like the Japanese should have a decent number of units on the map anyway. Speaking of which, those horsemen are moving across the map, just to see what value they could potentially get. Now berries have pretty much been taken, and Beastie's economy pretty safe, actually, with the walls going up in the north, between the wood lines. Both players looking to carve up a little bit of safety behind them. The deer camp could come in handy here for the Japanese a little bit later in the game. Having said that, obviously with the Cura storehouse, they don't necessarily need to go out there too quickly. And Louis now taking the time whilst he has that opportunity to get the outpost on the gold, which is a smart move because he needs to make sure he protects this gold vein for sure. And 2 out of the 3 sacred sites have already been captured for the Delhi at the almost 9-minute mark. Go for the 3rd one, and this is something that, well, turns into a bit of a mini-game in this matchup. The Japanese certainly going to need to try and deny those sacred sites for as long as possible. Going to be taking the one on the left side, decapturing that one, and one on the centre should be fine for Beastie, obviously outnumbering his opponent, and on the east side, capturing that sacred site as we speak. Now the Delhi could actually look to, as we say it, he does it, look to get those palisade walls around the sacred sites just to keep them alive for a bit longer when they're capped. Make it a little bit harder for the Japanese to deny them. It turns into a bit of a cat and mouse game at this point, but obviously Delhi should have an advantage in terms of numbers, considering efficient production. They can really start pumping out those units. And take a look at this. Another stable, double archery range. Beastie certainly committing to that feudal age pressure. We'll take out 1 Ghazi Raider there. The Japanese. Snaps a couple of archers as well. And it's interesting, the choice, by the way, for the archery ranges, because we don't see any spearmen just yet. So it's kind of going in a bit of autopilot, looking to just get an army composition of choice and make sure the spearmen don't come out ever because of those archers. In fact, I wonder whether it even will be spearmen. We talked about it earlier in the cast, and There's a triple blacksmith barracks rather. I wonder if it's going to go for honor bagation instead. It is going to be honor bagation. And I love that move, by the way. It's something that we see the pros do a lot more these days. Rather than go for spearmen, as the Japanese, the honor bagation offers something a little bit more different, a little bit more interesting. By being able to take a bit more of a better melee engagement fight, right? Because they've got the additional range for the honor bagation, and they're a lot faster too. So it's a great unit for the Japanese, for sure. Oh, Beast's going to lose a couple of Guards Raiders quite cheaply. Loses 3, and don't underestimate the significance of that. That's actually pretty critical. On the east side, walling up with the archers, which is definitely going to be helpful. Sacred site on the east side, pretty much protected at this point, and let's be careful not to lose this one. He might lose it in the end, he does. So both players picking off units here and there. The Japanese now looking to ride out into the middle of the map, and well, Beastie's had quite a few of the sacred sites for quite some time, so that gold income is going to be looking pretty decent. 450 in the bag already. And we do see the Daimyo Manor, which is a great upgrade for the Japanese. This is where things start to come online for the Japanese. Going to be increasing the farming gather rate by 25%. And obviously with the Cura storehouse, it's already got a lot for free. And the food is going to be looking very, very nice. Now, the deli might start to transition onto deer camp. That's exactly what's happening here. It's this kind of time where players run out of sheep, they run out of their initial berries, so have to venture out on the map. And that could be problematic, especially with the Japanese units on the field. It's got a decent number, quite a lot of honor bagation, which is looking great numbers, I've got to say. Going to try and get a wrap around the archers. Might need to actually wait there with those horsemen. He does. The Japanese tries to take an engaged fight altogether. And the best thing about the honor bagation, by the way, is that not only they can keep up generally with the horsemen, but also when they do engage, the extra attack range allows them to fight on the shoulders of their horsemen. And it really increases the surface area for attack for the Japanese. We might see that attack coming in now. Horsemen diving in with those Guards Raiders meeting head on around the central sacred site, looking to wall up a little bit, maybe just cause a bit of problems, allow the archers to defend themselves behind the palisades, getting a gate as well, just in case they want to poke their head through. The Guards Raiders do engage. Well, it's going to be an interesting fight. I feel like, yeah, I mean, if Beast can camp behind that wall, those archers will get good DPS and pick off some HP. But there does come a time when the Japanese might look to just try and get surrounded if they get good numbers. Doesn't necessarily feel like he's outnumbering just yet to take that fight. He's going to take it now with the honor bagation fighting alongside those horsemen. You can see here just how much damage they can do, and pushing Beastie a little bit further back. Horsemen going to try and go around the back to cut off the retreat as far as possible and get the body blocking in. There's a lot of honor bagation, and their movement speed certainly helping in this regard. While the archers going to try and escape as best as they can, Horsemen going to get a couple of surrounders on them. And yeah, those Guards Raiders are absolutely melting to those honor bagation. Great fight there for the Japanese overall, and it might have to back off for now because quite a lot of archers. Now the archers technically do counter the honor bagation, so he's going to be doing well to get out of there, the Japanese, after that initial fight. He has decapped the sacred site on the west, and still needs to burn through the palisades on the right side though, so Beastie doing well to keep that sacred site in action with those palisades. Honor bagation trickling through now though, with quadruple barracks production. That's looking pretty solid. And this is where things become a little bit tricky for the Delhi, because they don't actually have a gold income. They don't tend to get villages on gold, and Beastie hasn't. And because that castle age is not really on the cards, right? But the Japanese, the way their eco is set up, it's always a possibility that they could transition into that castle age, considering he's already got villages on gold, as you'd expect, because he needs those upgrades, he needs to pay for them, which the Delhi just don't have to do. And he's got 6 villages on gold, so slowly but surely he'll get the gold to get to that castle age, but well, he'd actually keep that villager alive. 2 HP on that one, so he's going to do well to get an outpost, maybe garrison inside, or maybe bring that villager back to the farms underneath the Cura storehouse. But 2 villagers have been killed so far by Beastie. Continues the chase with the honor bagation and the horsemen. On the right side, going to look to burn through the palisades and deny that. But walls coming out there just to make sure that the Guards Raiders have to go a little bit closer to the town centre, although there's enough space there to squeeze round. To be fair, he might dive on those villagers that building, actually. He might lose a couple. Oh, it's looking a bit tricky. He's going to keep the weak ones. Oh, I love that. I think he's intentionally doing that, by the way. Body blocking with the honor bagation. Doesn't lose a single villager. Takes out 2 Ghazi Raiders. Great trade there by the Japanese. All things considered, that could have been a lot more stickier. You've got to appreciate the micro there. That's very intentional to body block those villagers to safety with his honor bagation. Is decapping the sacred site on the right side. Now, all of a sudden, you can see the pendulum swing. The Delhi had a lot of aggression early on with a little bit of excess units or additional units compared to their enemies. All of a sudden, it's now the turn of the Japanese. Beastie needs to pull those villagers away. Good thing he's got 2 outposts. There's enough there space to garrison inside. But he's lost all 3 sacred sites, as I say though, capping the one in the middle once again, and the one on the west side. So he's obviously being very present on the map, something that Delhi very much enjoy doing. And you can see the little bit edging towards the castle age for the Japanese. It's going to get there pretty quickly, I got to say. And Beastie's Delhi feudal is going to be extended for sure. He's nowhere near that castle age himself, and hasn't been able to access the gold to get to that castle age because of the sacred sites. And in fact, I think he's been going pretty heavy feudal age, using the market as we see, spending that gold. Now, what this will do, actually, I love the tempo aggression for the Japanese in the castle age. One reason why is because when you compare it to the Delhi, the tech up is completely different to the castle age. When the Delhi tech up, they have to wait quite a long time for their free upgrades to come in. Now, they are free, but again, you want that power spike to upgrade these feudal age units. You want the veterancy on your archers, you want the veterancy on your Ghazi raiders, but they have to wait for it. On the flip side, the Japanese, though, when they get to the castle age, they get Yorishiro that can be deposited in the production buildings, making those production buildings work 200% faster at producing units. It's kind of literally the opposite effect, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. And so the castle age gives the Japanese a really nice power spike, at least compared to the Delhi. That's another one of the reasons why the Delhi tend not to necessarily consider the castle age a huge power spike for them. Although, of course, they can still get those highly armored units that don't need upgrades necessarily, whether it be the Lancers or the Man-at-Arms. That's a lot of honor Geisha, I love it. I feel like it's a great unit to scale quite well as well, with the veterancy to the castle age. It's going to be difficult. I mean, he's going to need a lot of archers to deal with that. There's a lot of spearmen coming out there for the Delhi, though. So those horsemen definitely need to back away. But I just wonder when the honor Geisha look to try and get a surround on them. They're going to have to make sure that they win it, though, if they fight, because those archers, they're going to be dangerous against them. But this is a time where the Delhi are looking to put some pressure on, right? They kind of have to. They've been out-teched at this point. Or they will be at least very soon. As the veterancy does come in for the honor Geisha, coming in for the horsemen as well, and possibly some blacksmith upgrades too, is going to get the samurai upgrade first. And that's an interesting choice, because he doesn't really have all that many, but they're being added in. And with this number of production buildings, as you can see, the Yorishiro has been deposited in that barracks. So production speed can be really ramping up, and a lot of infantry can be coming out soon for the Japanese. Can we go around the right side, Beastie? And this is a tricky situation for Beastie, because he's looking to do damage. He feels like he needs to. And he kind of does need to. But he's got to be careful not to get caught here against a Castle Age army. This could be devastating for Beastie. There is a Katana Bannerman as well, increasing the damage output by 20%. And, well, he's going to fight behind that gold vein. Looking just to reduce the surface area for that engagement. But the honor Geisha fighting... Oh, oops, that was a mistake. But it's fighting over the shoulders of their comrades. And, well, this is looking a bit tricky for Beastie. He might need to try and micro this as best as he can and get as much value with those archers as he can. And he should be able to. Now, overall, if those samurai can get a wraparound, it'll certainly be helpful. He's going to take out a little bit of the front line of the spearmen. Once he takes those down, well, that'll leave us the archers. And the honor Geisha are pretty decent at gap closing, by the way. So they're going to head in there and maybe try and take the fight, although it could be tricky. I'm not sure how many numbers he's going to live with. The samurai will tank, but the honor Geisha won't. You can see how much value they're getting. And a bit of a horseman raid here with the Japanese, trying to force those villagers to be idled, which is doing a good job of. By the way, Beastie did get to the castle age in the end and went up with the compound of the defender, so he's not too far behind, all things considered. But the macro is a little bit tricky for him. He's got a lot of wood floating, which is not necessarily what he wants. And with the amount of barracks that the Japanese have got, with the farming setup and the number of villages got in gold, he's going to be pumping out those samurai, which is pretty dangerous for the Delhi. And horsemen, he's actually going to get a couple of villages here, which is very nice as a pick-off. And he's really committing with the honor Geisha, by the way. This is what makes the Delhi so prone in the castle age. The tech-ups are a bit slow. You could get the village fortresses and the veterancy for the archers, but you can see a good 3.5 minutes away. And that's factoring... I mean, ultimately, when you choose the Tower of Victory over the Dome of the Faith, this can sometimes happen, the lack of scholars making the research times a little bit longer. But he's looking to get those sacred, the relics, rather, behind all of this. On the west side, will he get the wallet? I don't think he will. I think the horseman... Wait, no, he decided to back out there. Oh, he loses it in the end. Only just. But he's going to be escaping with a horseman and also that relic in the end there, Beastie. Was trying to decap the sacred site on the right side. Won't be able to, I don't think. Although, actually, I'm actually It is a samurai, so he might just about. I think he will in the end. He decaps it in the end. But he's really starting to flood those units. Look at this. On the mini-map, you can see the pink units heading across because of the barracks. Looks like maybe the Yori should have been deposited in a forge as well. Just to give an extra bit of 75 gold per minute. Does also have the Daimyo Palace. So that's going to be an additional 50% food coming in from the farms. And the map mobility he's got is quite impressive here for the Japanese. It's something you often associate the Delhi having. But the Castle Age, definitely the pendulum has swung even further for the Japanese. That's really concerning for Beastie is that he has been relying on the deer camp, which is now being pressurized somewhat by those infantry units. And that means that Beastie might need to go for a farming transition, which is happening now, which is not necessarily what the Delhi would like at this stage. But he's going to get a keep to defend the area. And with village fortresses, maybe, just maybe, he can scale his economy. He's got to be careful about doing that, though, because he's lacking food as it is. And to supply more food for villagers is going to be tricky alongside making army. Which is something he's definitely got to do, by the way, because I'll tell you who is making army. It is the Japanese. 61 military versus 36, and that's only going to get worse if that economy scales for the Japanese, which it is. There's no signs of it being hurt in any way. And in fact, he's going to go for the deer camp, which is fantastic for the Japanese, and farming transition already happened for free around that Kura storehouse. Oh, a couple of obligations on that wood wall, on that wood line. Oh, he's not noticing, he's not reacting. He's getting pinned everywhere, of course, and the Japanese are everywhere, and because of that, he's not noticing this. He's going to lose a lot of villagers, 11 so far. Going to lose at least another 3. Yeah, this is too late. He's not spotted it in time, and all of a sudden, he's going to be lacking wood. It's because of those villagers going down, and it's like the Japanese are going to start taking control of the sacred sites. But look at this! Look at the stream of units. It's absolutely impressive. So because of the extended few lays that the Delhi forced the Japanese into, whilst I said it was about 13-15 minutes when they come online, you can see it happening now. It delayed it to about 20 minutes, but boy oh boy are those unit numbers starting to really escalate for the Japanese now, and there's going to be a big push coming in for the Japanese. The Delhi do have access to cheaper keeps, and I think you might be doing well to get another one. I would love to see a keep here, by the way, because it will protect the food and the gold, which is 2 key resources he is going to need to be able to hold off this army. Now, speaking of the army that it's going up against, it's going up against veteran samurai and Honor Geisha. It feels like crossbows could be a good option, as a generally a good defensive unit. Doesn't have high mobility, but ultimately you can't have it all. And going against samurai is always a tricky situation. I think you don't necessarily want to engage in melee fights against this army composition, considering the Honor Geisha and their increased attack range. And they really do make a big surface area for their damage output. And so I feel like crossbows could be a good response for Beastie and the Delhi. Because, of course, the Honor Geisha will be somewhat prone to the crossbow's ranged attack. And, of course, the crossbows will counter the samurai. And, yeah, it looks like that's the case, actually. He's going to go for quite a few of those crossbows and going to get a keep here at this position, which is definitely strategically feels like the right option. But take a look at this. The Tanegashima gunsmith going to be getting those Ozutsu, no doubt about it, for the Japanese. This is a great timing. 23 minutes. He's been able to afford so much as well. And ultimately, there's no way that Beastie can deny this. When you tech up, that's usually when you're prone and you have to be careful about being ambushed and attacked. But, I mean, ultimately, I think the Japanese will be quite happy to be attacked at this point. Because you've got 73 military. There's that Imperial Age. He's going to get upgrades pretty quickly after that. And the Ozutsu are going to possibly see out this game. I've got to say, it feels like every age, the Japanese do have a nice power spike. Because ultimately in the Imperial Age, when you're in the ascendancy like you are now, the one thing that you kind of want to add into your mix is siege. What better way to do it than with the Ozutsu? He's backing away. Maybe look to just get those upgrades first here before he engages the Japanese. No real reason to take the fight just yet. And I gotta say, having killed so many villagers here, it makes it really rough, because whilst he does have 2 keeps and village fortresses is in play, he's gonna need to take some time to get that economy back and running again. In the middle of the map, looking to pressurize a little bit, and Beastie trying to hold on. Maybe think about going to the Imperial Age himself, but doesn't have the resources, and if he does, it's probably a death sentence, because he doesn't have much of a standing army. It's going to be faced up against elite units very soon. Now, there is a keep there that Japanese will spot. I don't think this is a fight he can take just yet. He needs to wait for his Ozutsu. He needs to wait for the siege to join the fight. It does have 2 of the sacred sites as well, which is going to be great for that gold income. A second forge does have the Yorishiro inside, so gold shouldn't be too much of a problem. Although he's actually struggling to get it in the bank. He's spending so much, of course, and he's going to go for the bombards first instead of the Azutsu. I don't hate it. The bombard's going to start to make work on that keep, that forward position. Give it another 5-10 minutes, you might just see an outcome in this game. It's been a great game so far. Here are the crossbows looking to engage. Spearmen as the front line. They need to tank for as long as they can. They won't survive that long, though, I got to say. Not against these samurai and Onabagation. A couple of man-at-arms have been trickled in there. Onabagation going to try and get gap close against the crossbows. Try and get on top of them if they can. But there is a good keep position. And so I'm not sure. I mean, to be fair, the veteran, or at least now, the elite samurai should be fine diving in. 7 ranged armor makes them very comfortable taking the engagement. Katana bannerman has been focused on, but does leave the aura for the additional attack. Villagers coming out to try and torch down the bombards. 2 of them have been deployed. They're going to back away for now. That's a bit right. Oh, there's a couple of units here for the Japanese. That could do well to try and protect the bombards. They will. Oh, that's not a fight. Oh, that's going to be a lot of villagers going down for Beastie. Only got a couple of torches against the bombards and bought himself some time. We hear an elephant coming out, so elephant enjoyers out there. Pay attention. An elephant is on the way. Getting a keep on the right side. I love this option, actually. Going to protect that 8,000 gold vein. There's the sort of timing that you want to do that. 2 massive gold veins in the middle of the map for the Dry Arabia map. Something that at this point you want to get control over, and the Japanese certainly have that at the moment. A bit of a pushback though somewhat here for Beastie. Got plenty of food and gold in the bank. The question is, when does he consider going to the Imperial Age, or does he consider keep pumping out those crossbows to try and hold on? It's got a bit more in his ascendancy, maybe things swinging that way a little bit. Don't forget, he is an age behind. There is that castle up and running. Can protect it very nicely with a bombard in place. But the biggest issue for the Delhi now is a decision between Imperial Age or making more units, and it feels like Imperial Age is what Beastie's opting for. Now bear in mind, again, the tech up to the next stage, it takes time for those all-important upgrades to come in for the Delhi, and it's really not what they need right now. They need that tech up, and they need the better units. They need it now. 2 bombards still working out on the static defenses. Could get a good wraparound in the Japanese. He doesn't have enough. Beastie, he had to tech up to the next stage. Spent a lot of resources to do so. He has a distinct lack of army, although he's got a decent army enough to hold on. Veteran archers and the crossbowmen. And spunking in an elephant too. But keep might be going down pretty soon. Hisar Academy is the landmark of choice for the Delhi. I wonder whether the Japanese will venture out onto the west side sacred site. Gonna get another town center just in case. He's really sure another 2 town centers, in fact. And interesting that he went for that rather than upgrading his primary town center with a shogunate castle. He wants those villagers just to make sure, because of course he is behind the villagers, to be fair. So if Beastie can hold on for the next, I mean, he has to hold on for a while though. It's got to be at least 10-15 minutes. So he can let that economy really start to kick in. But he's going to lose that keep, and that's devastating there for Beastie. Because it's a big part of his economy. It's actually one of his town centers effectively, and more importantly, it's the big heart of his defense. And that gold vein on the front is going to be saturated with villagers. Going to try and extract as much gold as he can, whilst he can. And here come the Zutsu as well. A large farming transition round the back for the Delhi, protected with another keep. So 2 keeps still in play. It was just 1. No, it's 2. It is 2. So villagers will scale, but he needs to make sure he keeps those villagers alive for as long as possible here. But the biggest problem though is a lot of archers. That's not really what he needs. Not against these elite samurai. He doesn't have that many crossbows left. This could be a timing here for the Japanese. I think he pushes. This could be the end, because, I mean, whilst the military numbers look even, ultimately it's samurai versus archers. That's just, there's only one winner in that scenario. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Beastie taps out. He didn't have the right army in the end, and he was pushed and poked and prodded. It looks like Onabagation is looking pretty hot on the Japanese. Hope you guys enjoyed the cast of the game. Take care, and see you next time.